So congratulations, Mr. Supervisor-elect.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. I appreciate that. And one thing I want to tell you is, you see, the Democrats that try to sell the idea that the Republican Party is a party of racists or something like that, which I totally disagree. And this is a good example for the Democrat Party to pay attention. I'm Latino immigrant, and we won in Independence Township on the primary. My campaign we did. And then on November election, as you see, I have the support of everybody. Now, Independence Township is 95% Caucasian, white people. So it's nothing to do with racism or nothing. It's about the quality of the person who is running. And the Republican Party has the best platform, which is lower taxes, less regulation, and freedom. So I love the Republican Party and happy to be a member of.
And we've talked about this before.
One
of the things we like about the Republican Party versus the Democrat Party is that we're a party of individuals, and we recognize people as being individuals. We don't label and group them like the Democrats do. But yet, in spite of that, they had no blacks running for Congress, and the Republicans had 3, and we elected 1. And so you don't hear them talking about that. The media isn't talking about that. We don't talk about it because we see individuals. But anyway, it just shows how we're also seeing, as the result of what happened in Florida during this election, that people in these groups, the Latinos, the blacks, are more identifying themselves as being better represented, their personal interests, by the Republican Party.
Of course. I was talking with someone who lives in Detroit last night, and he told me the Republican Party, when it's in charge, the economy is much better, business is doing well, and he, as a business owner, believes the Republican Party did more for business owner, for the economy, for our country, than the current administration from Biden and Whitmer, which is 100% true.
Yeah. So it was an interesting result in this last election. A lot of the things nationally are still up in the air when we record this. But unfortunately, we had a very disappointing turnout in Michigan. And basically, what happened in Michigan is a self-inflicted wound by the Republicans. And just for people that haven't seen the result, in Michigan, we went from having a Republican legislature where we had Republican majorities in the House and Senate to now we have Democrat majorities in the House and Senate. And and 3 proposals that passed. Everything really went for the Democrats. And that was mainly because of 2 things. One, very bad leadership in the Michigan GOP, and 2, stupid leadership by the elected officials in the Michigan legislature, or leaders in the Michigan legislature. Just stupid. And this was something that did not have to be lost, but it was lost. And I'll break it down for you, Jose, what basically happened, and I know you know what happened. It all came down starting with the Dobbs decision, which the Supreme Court used to repeal Roe versus Wade. That did not have to happen. That was the greatest gift that was ever given to the Democrat Party, and it didn't have to happen. The Supreme Court was legislating from the bench when they made that decision on Dobbs. They could have just said, okay, that issue is about 15 weeks, which was a question of viability. They could have left it at that. But what is they did that. So what happened in Michigan, several groups got together and got a citizen-initiated petition to put on the ballot a constitutional change, which would take Michigan's law, which was written in 1931, totally outlawing abortion. And this proposed constitutional change was the extreme opposite of that, which was totally unrestricted abortion. So voters in Michigan had a choice of one extreme, which was unrestricted versus no abortion. And the reality is, according to polling, 70% of the population of Michigan, actually 67%, are in the middle of that. They believe in abortion up to a certain limit on that. Our legislators had the opportunity, Jose, to come up with some legislation that would do that, put that in front of Governor Whitmer and have her veto it if that's what you wanted. That would have taken this whole issue off the table, but no. I actually saw, or actually on the radio, heard an interview with Senate Majority Leader Shirkey, Republican. And he was asked, would you support legislation that would be a compromise and would allow abortion up to 15 weeks, like the Dobbs decision was? And a reporter asking this question was very smart, knowing that this would turn things around for the Republicans. And Shirkey said, I am pro-life. I believe that life begins at conception. So absolutely not. I would rather lose than compromise on this. And that's exactly what happened, Jose. He lost, not only based on his beliefs, he lost our legislature. He now, because of that and the other leaders, the elected leaders in the Michigan legislature, we have unrestricted abortion. We have Democrat majorities in the legislature. The Democrat governor, attorney general, and secretary of state were reelected. All the proposals that favor the Democrats were passed. So he basically sacrificed the entire Republican Party because of his extreme beliefs on this thing, would not compromise. And when we elect people, we are looking for compromises, middle of ground, to get things so you don't never get everything you want, but you don't want to lose everything you want in the process. So you make compromise. This guy went ahead and lost everything for us because of his extreme positions. And I'd like to say one other thing, Jose. Right to Life of Michigan is an extreme organization that has the Republican Party by a stranglehold. And when I ran for state rep back in 2018, the very first document I got in my new post office box was from Right to Life. It was a survey, and they've got such influence. And I threw it out because a lot of these groups that are single issue groups like that, they're special interest groups. They want you to take a pledge in order to get their endorsement. Take a pledge saying you will not do this or you will not do that, which I think I threw out all that stuff because I think it's so wrong for a legislator to take a pledge. Because basically when a legislator takes a pledge on something, I'm only going to vote a certain way on things, he's basically saying, I'm not going to review documents. I'm not going to look at specific cases and make judgments, which is what a legislator is elected to do, and make compromises and do things. So Right to Life has put the stranglehold on the Michigan Republican Party, and as a result, all is lost now. And even the legislator that recruited me to run for state rep said, and he was giving me advice how to raise. The first thing you got to do is get Right to Life's endorsement. And I know I didn't want it. I didn't want to and I'm like making pledges to anybody as a legislator, but evidently most Michigan Republicans did. And as a result, there was no compromise made. And now they have scuttled the entire Republican Party. We got to start over. And the Democrats are in a great position now, Jose. And I'm sure that from your experience, also having run as a state legislator, you had that same pressure put on you. And you also, from other special interest groups and all of these that are trying to get you to commit to taking a pledge to do one thing or another, which is just not the right way to legislate. So this is what happened in Michigan, Jose.
Yeah, well, you see, and during this election, I was thinking that most people will agree that the economy is a big factor. Gas prices, inflation, mortgage rates going up. For instance, my gas and my electrical bill went like 120% or 130%. I pay more than double right now. I just got my gas bill went up this month again. And I mean, it's very expensive. So to me, when I pump gas or see my electrical bill, my gas bill, a mortgage rate. I want to buy a house, and now the rate went for 3% to 6 or 7. It's difficult. So what people were thinking is abortion were more important issue in this election than the economy, which to me, the economy was more important to me. But the outcome show us the abortion was more important issue. But talking about the leadership, Matt, I saw that we lost the House and the Senate. And when you talk about leadership, we talk about the people, how the leadership make the decisions of how we support our candidates to retain the majority in the House and the Senate. Most of the candidates did not get the help that they need. For instance, when you says you win the primary, you become the Republican nominee. Then you have to get help from the Republican Party. Most candidates have poor campaigns, no good advice from the Republican Party. You know, when you win the nomination, the Republican Party sends somebody to help you to get the knowledge that you need to cross the line. Well, we didn't do that. Tudor Dixon, you can see she didn't have the money. She was a good candidate. She did the right thing. I believe she won the 2 debates. She did great. Yeah. But if you, during the last 3 weeks, if you look YouTube or any app or any other Amazon or whatever, it will come up a negative app against Tudor Dixon, DePerno, and Caramo. Really bad. Full attacks 24/7, over and over and over against also our candidates for U.S. Congress, Tom Barrett, Gibbs. They got attack. When you're talking about leadership in the Michigan GOP, they fail to raise the money to help them. My criticism is, I see past leadership in many years ago when they have Snyder, Ruth Johnson, when they were running, they got the money, they got the support, they got grassroots people knocking on doors. I didn't see it this season. Nothing.
In fact, where was Ron Weiser, the chairman of the Michigan Republican Party? Totally absent. I never saw him during the entire campaign, during this whole election cycle. Where was Ron Weiser, the chairman of the party? There was no leadership. Nope. And the only thing we heard was from the vice chairman, who made comments that were disparaging and used as a negative against us. So we didn't have the leadership. When we didn't have the money being raised, where was the money? I mean, look at all this money that helped Tudor Dixon win the nomination. Where was that money after she was the nominee? And it was totally out of balance.
Now, somebody might point out that Tudor Dixon have a fight with one member of the Michigan Republican Party. Do you know who is that or what happened?
I saw some tweets go by that evidently somebody in the Michigan Republican Party made some disparaging comments about her as not being a strong enough candidate, and then she fired back. I think you might have that information, right, Jose?
No, I had to look at it, but I hear about that. But I think Tudor Dixon was a good candidate. We have a great candidates overall. I like Soldano, Ryan Kelly.
Oh, these are people, Jose, you talk about leadership.
Right.
These are people that I think we need to consider, and we need, because I think it's in January at state convention, we're going to be picking new leaders of the Republican Party in Michigan. We need leadership.
Yes,
okay, we agree. We got the wrong people in there now. Their terms are over. They're gone. Their history. So now we must go forward. And this is what we need to focus on. Who would be a good leader? And I think you bring up a good point. If you look at somebody like Soldano, what he put together out of nothing, a beautifully strong organization that supported him. We saw at the NORC meeting when he came, he filled the room and there was so much enthusiasm for him. This guy knows how to get a crowd worked up. He knew how to ask for them to donate money. And another person that was also very impressive was Ryan Kelly. And he also got a lot of passion for him. So we've got some people that if they're willing to step forward, we may consider for leadership position in the Republican Party in Michigan, because this is what we need. We need somebody that can inspire, somebody that can raise money. And the number one thing we need, Jose, is somebody that can unify the party, because the biggest problem in the Republican Party in Michigan is that it is so divided. And it comes back down to this abortion thing. If you're a person that says, yeah, we have to make compromise in order to get at least some of what we want, those people will be labeled a rhino. And that's where the division starts right there. And it's so divisive. And so we need to
Yes.
unify this party now, Jose. Otherwise, it's just going to be a blue wasteland for generation.
I am 100% agree with you, Matt, because if just we take a close look for Oakland County, when I came to America, was red. It's the red county. We have a lot, you know,
and you had a very strong leader with Brooks Patterson.
Right.
And he was
now,
a unifying force in the Republican Party. And that's what we are lacking right now.
Lacking big time, you know. And then we are waiting for the new generation of Republican leadership to come, because we need to flip Oakland County, go back how it was, you know.
Right.
Now we currently have Bouchard. I just heard, sadly, that we lost more seats in the county, Oakland County.
And because of redistricting, they eliminated several Republican seats. And so it made the deck was more stacked against the Republicans this time.
Yes. So it's sad.
It's very sad. So that's what we need. The time now is, of course, we need to look back, see what happened, learn from it, and then how do we go forward? And how we need to go forward with new leadership. And another problem is, because Proposal 1 passed, that the terms of these people in the legislature are going to be elongated. And we've got a majority of Democrats in there now. They'll be in there for twice as long as what the term limits were before that. So this is another place where the Republicans shot themselves in the foot, because it was the Republicans in the legislature that put that on the ballot. And now we are going to suffer from it.
That's sad. It is sad, and then it's going to bring a lot of controversy in the next elections for sure. You know, we may going to see a lot of former representatives or former senators that may show up again or want to be involved after many years too.
Yeah, that's right. So
yeah, it's gonna be kind of interesting to see what happened now the Proposal 1 passed. I don't agree with any of those proposals, by the way, but it's gonna be interesting to see what happened. Now the transit millage pass, also something I don't see the benefit for North Oakland County, because it's gonna raise taxes for the northern, and I don't see the benefit. There's no benefit from Groveland, Wade Lake, Highland, you know.
Well, another
Brandon,
problem,
Springfield.
And there's a general theology behind this, that you're taking local community control of transit, and now you're putting it under the county control. So a lot of us believe, especially in the Republican Party, the more smaller local control is a better way to control things, rather than having some bigger entity from above. And that's basically what happened here with that. So now these little towns that don't need transit, they're out in rural areas, big farmland, have no benefit from it. They were able to opt out before, and now they can't.
It's sad, yeah. It's sad because local control is better, because we know our community really well. Right. We can address issues faster because we know everyone in our community. Now that it's controlled by the county people, it's going to be very difficult to know, you know, independence, the Springfield needs, the community as a community. Each community has a unique characteristics, and I don't think so the county will be more efficient, as big government is never good. So, but sad.
And it makes it more ripe for corruption, because now you're going to be raising a lot more money from these areas. And who's going to be controlling that money? Who's going to be watching that money? How's that money going to be allocated out, and to whom? You know, so now you've created a much bigger potential for fraud, which is also what happened with Proposal 2. Now you've created a big potential, since that passed, for election fraud. It's going to actually make it illegal to require an ID when somebody shows up to vote. I could show up and say, I'm Mrs. Ortega, I need my ballot. And they can't say you're not, because it would be illegal for them to ask me to prove it. But this is what happened. And plus, they're going to be putting drop boxes all over the place. Plus, they're going to be having 9 days of early in-person voting. And I was talking to the Waterford clerk about this, and she was saying, I don't know how I'd even staff for something like that, 9 days of in-person voting. You know, you've got to have security and so much set up. There was absolutely no provision for that. There's no funding for it. And this was before it passed. She said, it just doesn't make any sense. This now has passed. will happen. And we're going to have so much more potential for fraud, Jose, because of this. So much was lost in Michigan, and it just comes down to bad leadership and bad judgment by our elected officials. And unfortunately, we all have to be punished by their bad choices. And you are right, Jose. This did not have to happen. You had a governor who had a failed administration before this, that she was responsible for the death of over 5,000 people in nursing homes by her draconian measures, her tyrannical measures, that she had over 25,000 people leave the state. They voted with their feet during the 2 years that she was governor because of her lockdowns and all that. In the schools, the students did so much worse. We're like in the bottom 10% of the country now, that they lost so much by her locking down the schools for a year and a half. So much was lost under her. 3,000 restaurants went out of business because of what she did. So much destruction was done to our economy. And it didn't have to happen that way. Other states did so much better. And somebody like that to get reelected is just a major, major blow up. That somebody with that kind of a record would and became a tyrant and circumvented the people's representatives. Anyway, Jose, so this was a good recap of what happened at the midterm elections. The best thing that happened was you getting resoundingly elected as the supervisor of Independence Township. I'm looking forward to going to your inauguration. And that's one of the bright spots that happened. And we got to work hard now, Jose, to try to fight back what we've lost.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's not over yet. We will continue fighting for sure.
You never give up, right, Jose?
Never, never. I encourage everybody to look for the NORC on Facebook, NORC information for future
North Oakland
events and get
Republican
involved.
Club on Facebook
Right.
and all that. We provide a lot, and we enjoy being a good supporter of you and Independence Township and Oakland County.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
Jose, until
Bye.
the next time.